In 1832, a boy named James Hudson Taylor was born in Barnsley, a small Yorkshire mining town in England. His father was a Methodist preacher and pharmacist who kept a map of China on the parlor wall. Every night at dinner, the family prayed for a land they had never seen and never expected to visit. Young Hudson was rebellious and restless. By 15, he had drifted from faith entirely. He worked as a clerk in a bank, read skeptical philosophy, and mocked his parents' beliefs. His mother, heartbroken, locked herself in a room one afternoon and refused to come out until she had prayed her son back to God. On a rainy June afternoon in 1849, 17-year-old Hudson wandered into his father's library and picked up a gospel tract. He read it, expecting nothing. But something in the words seized him. Hours later, he fell to his knees and surrendered his life to God. When his mother returned home, she already knew. "I have been praying," she said. "I knew the answer had come." From that day, Hudson Taylor could think of only one thing: China. 1/3 of the human race, and almost none of them had ever heard the gospel. He began preparing with ferocious discipline, studying medicine, learning Mandarin from a grammar book, and deliberately living in poverty to toughen himself for what lay ahead. On September 19, 1853, 21-year-old Hudson Taylor sailed from Liverpool aboard the Dumfries, a tiny sailing ship bound for Shanghai. The voyage took 5.5 brutal months. Storms nearly sank them twice. He arrived in March 1854 to a China torn apart by civil war. Shanghai was a city under siege. The Taiping Rebellion raged across the country. Imperial soldiers and rebels slaughtered each other in the streets. Western missionaries huddled in the safety of the foreign settlements, preaching to each other. Taylor was appalled. "The Chinese are dying by the millions," he wrote, "and we sit here behind our walls, living like Europeans." Then Hudson Taylor did something that shocked the entire missionary community. He shaved his head, grew a long queue down his back, dyed his remaining hair black, and put on Chinese robes. He ate Chinese food. He slept on Chinese beds. He became, as far as he could, Chinese. The other missionaries called him a disgrace. "You've gone native, Taylor," they sneered. "You're making a fool of yourself and of the gospel." The Chinese were suspicious at first. A foreigner in their clothes. It felt like mockery. But Taylor persisted. He lived among them. He treated their sick. He spoke their language with increasing fluency. And slowly, the suspicion turned to something else: respect. "He is strange," one village elder said, "but he suffers with us. That is enough." Taylor returned to England in 1860, broken in health but burning with a vision no one else could see. Inland China, the vast interior where no missionary had ever gone, was home to nearly 400 million souls. He begged the established mission societies to send workers. They refused. "It's too dangerous," they said. "It's impossible." On June 25, 1865, while walking on the beach at Brighton, Hudson Taylor could bear it no longer. He later wrote, "Unable to bear the sight of a congregation of 1,000 or more Christian people, rejoicing in their own security while millions were perishing for lack of knowledge, I wandered out on the sands alone, in great spiritual agony. That day, he opened a bank account with £10 and wrote in the deposit book, "The China Inland Mission." The China Inland Mission was unlike anything the Christian world had ever seen. There would be no guaranteed salary. Missionaries would trust God alone for their provision. Workers without formal education were welcome. Women could serve as missionaries, and the mission would go inland, not to the safe coastal cities, but to the most remote, unreached provinces of China. The religious establishment was horrified. "God's work done in God's way," Taylor declared, "will never lack God's supply." He refused to go into debt. He refused to solicit donations. He refused to beg. If God wanted this mission to exist, God would provide. And the money came, often at the last moment, often from the most unexpected places, but it always came. The price Hudson Taylor paid for his mission was staggering. In 1870, his beloved wife Maria, who had been his partner through every hardship, died in China at the age of 33. She was buried in a small cemetery in Zhenjiang. 4 of their children had already preceded her in death. Taylor stood at her grave and wrote, "My heart is overwhelmed with grief, but I would not have it otherwise." He pressed on. Year after year, decade after decade, Taylor drove the mission deeper into China's interior. Missionaries were robbed, beaten, and driven out of towns. Some died of disease, some were murdered. And still, more volunteers came, from England, from America, from Scandinavia, from Australia. By 1890, the China Inland Mission was the largest mission organization in the world. Then came the summer of 1900. The Boxer Rebellion swept across northern China like a wildfire of fury. Anti-foreign militias hunted down every Westerner they could find. 58 missionaries from the China Inland Mission were slaughtered, along with 21 of their children. It was the darkest hour in the mission's history. The world expected retaliation. Western governments demanded massive reparations from China. But Hudson Taylor, now old, frail, and shattered by grief, made a decision that stunned everyone. He refused to accept a single penny of compensation from the Chinese government. "We must show the Spirit of Christ," he said. "He forgave his murderers. Can we do less?" It was perhaps the most Christlike act of the entire century. On June 3, 1905, Hudson Taylor died in Changsha, China. He was 73 years old. He had spent 51 years pouring out his life for the people of China. By the time of his death, the China Inland Mission had 825 missionaries serving in every province of China. 125,000 Chinese men and women had come to faith. He was buried beside his wife Maria in Zhenjiang, the foreign missionary who had shaved his head and worn Chinese robes when everyone told him he was a fool. The man who built a mission on nothing but faith and a £10 note. The man who forgave the people who killed his workers and refused to let hatred define his legacy. God's work done in God's way will never lack God's supply. Hudson Taylor staked his entire life on that promise, and a nation of 400 million souls was never the same.